Good morning and happy Mother's Day. My name is Reverend Leslie Goodwin, and I am one of your senior ministers along with Reverend Karen. And I am so happy to be on this platform and together live with everyone today for the first time in 2 months. So thank you for having us. Our talk today is called Mother is a Verb. And as I was thinking about this talk, about this idea, what came clear for me was this very vivid memory of being right here in this room. It was a brand new sanctuary for us at the time when I very first started to attend New Vision Center. And Reverend Dr. Michelle Medrano was sharing a series on the book A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, which I just loved. That was a particularly transformative book for me at the time. And she was sharing with us this idea that we have to shed the personal identification with roles that we think that we are not our job, that we are not our relationships, that we are not our hobbies, that when someone asks you, so tell me about yourself, all those details that you give about yourself, well, I like to paint and I hike and I'm a map maker, or whatever it is that we would list there, that's not who we are. And I sat there and I was just flummoxed because all I could think was, but I am a mother. But I'm a mother. That's what I am. I have these children. I'm a mother. That's what I am. And it took a really long time for me to settle into the realization that mothering isn't what I am, it's what I do. And more essentially, it's what I have chosen to do. And then I found this quote, this wonderful quote from Cheryl Lacey Donovan, where she said, "Mother is a verb. It's something you do, not just who you are. It's something you do." And it opened me up to this really different idea of what mothering is and what being mothered is. We would be really remiss if we were to have a Mother's Day service without acknowledging that sometimes the candy corn saccharine Mother's Day is wonderful, everything is perfect all the time idea is everybody's experience. There are people participating in the service today who grew up without a mother. There are people participating in this experience today who have a fractured relationship with their mother or have a fractured relationship with people that they have mothered. There are those among us who have lost children, lost pregnancies, struggled with fertility challenges. I am among that group. And it makes this a bittersweet experience. There are men in this group who feel perhaps like this talk isn't about them. And so I'm going to invite us to really open up to hearing this message from the perspective of mothering as an action that is available as a verb, as a thing we do and a thing we receive from people who maybe are biological mothers or may not be at all, maybe from a wildly different perspective. I'm pretty blessed. I was raised by a wonderful mother. If you are a Phoenix local, you have probably met my mother because I think she knows everyone in the world. And one of the things I learned from her is to be unerringly kind and make friends everywhere. Grocery store lines, airplanes, restaurant bathrooms. Everyone becomes immediate friends with my mother, and it's something that I have striven to emulate. And because that's the kind of mother I have, I was raised by this tribe of powerful, loving, wonderful women who mothered her and who are her friends. And when I look at all of the things, like the totality of who I am as a human being now, I can see the reflection of this active communal mothering showing up in who I am now. This may feel familiar to you when you think about it. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Marguerite, taught me about crafting and how to crochet. And everybody out there who has blankets from me, Marguerite is the one that brought that out in me. Happy Mother's Day, Grandma. My great-aunt Betty taught me to dance wildly and with great abandon, gleefully, and to own my inner kookiness. She was a pistol for sure. She also taught me that it's okay to surrender into the power of spirit, even if everybody around me doesn't understand, which obviously has been a profound message. My great aunt Mary encouraged me to paint and create and be brave and put it out there and not care what anybody else thought. I have aunts upon aunts upon aunts who have supported and loved me. Probably my best friend in the whole world is one of my aunts. Happy Mother's Day, Christina, Jackie, Michelle. There are too many to list. I'm gonna save us all that big long list. I have a lot of aunts. My mom has this big group of friends who also supported and loved and encouraged me my whole life up until this day and again tomorrow. Janie and Marge and Pam and Diana and Anita. This list could go forever. I have been mothered upon mothered upon mothered my whole life by these amazing, amazing women. And I truly can't imagine what it would be like if I didn't have a solid relationship with my biological mother. But what I can say is that this tribe has shown me that mothering isn't a biological thing. Now, this became important later in my life when I went overnight from having 2 small biological children to 5 3-step kids, overnight, there they are, awesome, awesome, awesome kids, and a whole passel of doggies and kitties and lizards, and I have a grand tarantula now named Beth. No grandkids yet, but I mean, who needs grandkids when you have a grand tarantula? Still working on that one. So here's what I really want for all of us, is to anchor into the idea of gratitude for the mothering that we have received from wherever it has come. And a recognition of the way that as we mature, as we deepen into an understanding of who we are as individuals, that we really begin to learn to mother ourselves. We begin to understand how to do that. So the action of mothering, I've narrowed it down. There are a lot of verbs. I mean, we could be talking about laundry and homework help and all the many, 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 many things that mothers do throughout the life of their children and beloveds. But I've narrowed it down to 3 big verb categories. We've got to birth, to nurture, and to release. So let's start with to birth. When you dig into the definition of to birth, sure, the first definition is to birth, like out of your body, a human being, right? That's a thing. And I in no way mean to minimize or denigrate that experience. I've done it 2 times. Whoo. Men in the room, whoo. Just saying. But the second definition is to create, to bring forth. So yes, we birth children, and we birth projects, and ideas, and solutions, and creative products, and relationships. We're forever birthing and bringing forth what we want in our lives. Well, and if we're not paying attention, we're forever bringing forth and birthing what we do not want in our lives, because that's the way the law works. And isn't it interesting how no matter what we talk about, we end up back in this area of the creative void of the universe and how we bring forth ideas. It's like it's a spiritual principle or something, like it's a part of how the universe works. We are choosing to birth, choosing to bring forth and create when we are in that place of affirmation, when we are in the place of claiming and knowing what we want and opening that place of possibility. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, wrote in Spiritual Awareness, "Within us is the unborn possibility of limitless experience. Ours is the privilege of giving birth to it." So as we create the mothering experience for ourselves in our own lives, the first step is to recognize that the possibilities are limitless, that we're not locked into a role or a specific way of moving forward or a history that we think defines who we are. Rather, we have this opportunity to lean into the limitless possibility of all that is there and open it up for ourselves, that it's already present. All we need to do is know that we can have it and allow the birth to come forth. If anybody's ever tried to stop a birth, no. I can tell on myself that when I had my second child, you don't really remember the pain. It's a wonderful thing about the human brain. You remember that it hurt, but you don't actually remember the pain. And I remember when I hit that point in labor with my second child that I realized, oh God, I remember now. And I was like, oh, no, I take it back. Just leave him in there. It's fine. I'll just carry him forever. It's fine. I don't want to do this again. And the nurse is laughing because apparently this happens with every second child. And, we still have Creighton. So obviously he did not cease to be born because I decided I don't want to. Once we start that birthing process, it's going to come forth. So that brings us to our second verb, to nurture. To me, this is the true heart of what we think of when we think of mothering. To nurture, to feed, to water, to supply with that which is needed. I've cooked a lot of meals. I've cooked a lot of meals with a lot of side dishes because at one point I had a vegetarian, a vegan, one that would functionally only eat meat and no vegetables, one that hated noodles, and one that would only eat noodles. Yeah. And everyone lived to see the end of the day. It's important that we feed our children, obviously. People notice if we don't. You get in trouble. And when I think of supply what is needed, that's not really, I think, the heart of what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is being willing to know the beloved in front of you well enough that you are willing to supply what they need. Not what you think they should need, not what you want them to need, not what you would need in that situation. What they need to encourage their truth, their own experience. There is this tendency to want to make our children be mini-me's. And that's not who and what they are. That's not who and what they are. They are their own beloved beings. When we nurture, we are recognizing their truth, their freedom. It's a God quality. The freedom to be who you really are to the fullest extent. And part of that mothering action is to value that enough to nurture it, even if you don't understand it. Ernest Holmes said, "The seed of freedom is planted in the innermost being of us, but it is up to each of us to discover and nurture the seed." And as we step into that expression of self-mothering, it's about beginning to recognize that truth in our own selves and to honor it and nurture it and give ourselves the space, the time, the resources, the willingness, the bravery to be who we really are unapologetically and with passion and joy. Recognizing that anybody who can't deal can go somewhere else. It's a big planet. There's lots of room. When we let go of roles, we let go of the necessity to keep people in our lives because they fit in a certain list. If they do not nurture the highest of who we are. Ooh, feel into that freedom. And that creates the space to allow people in that are invested in living these verbs, that are invested in nurturing our highest selves. The third verb is to release. This one, I'm going to admit, can be a hard one for me. My littlest, last one at home moved out last week. And it was time. And it was time. He turned 21 and moved out in the same week. This is a reasonable choice. And it's wonderful for 150,000 reasons. And our last baby moved out. And there's a thing there, right? You know, when you have come from a place where you literally self-defined as, but I am a mother, and I mean, you don't ever get to stop being a mother. There, it just keeps going. But you know, they don't live at my house anymore. I have 5 adult children now. Wow, that's kind of crazy. And there was a part of me that felt like talking him out of it. There was a part of me that felt like, oh, but do you want to spend the money? Oh, but do you really need to do? But what was clear to me is that releasing him to do the next thing was the right thing. You know, just like to birth is akin to realization and affirmation, just like to nurture is akin to the spiritual practice of self-knowingness, to release is akin to the prayer step that is surprisingly called to release. We can't get the answer to our prayer while we hold it in our white-knuckled grip. We can't see how Spirit walks out the universe while we demand it follow our bullet-pointed outline to the micro step. We can never know how big things can get, how full things can get, how loving things can get if we won't let the infinity of Spirit carry our lives through in that way. If we stay with our plan, we stay limited. And that is not anything I would ever want for any of my children or any of my children's friends or my nieces and nephews or my friends who I have in many ways mothered myself. Nor is it anything I would want for any member of this community. And ministry certainly is a form of mothering as well, as I have been supported by literally dozens of powerful ministers who have encouraged myself, who have encouraged Reverend Karen, our Pratt Corps, all along the way. So as we mother ourselves, as we honor the ways in which we have been mothered, and the ways in which we have mothered, as we allow that validation to drop into ourselves so that Mother's Day becomes Mothering Day, an ownership of the mothering act. I have a quote from Jill Churchill that I think just allows us to recognize the good and let the rest go. She says, "There's no one way to be a perfect mother, and a million ways to be a good one." So let's honor that good mothering we've given and received and continue to lean into it with so much love. And so it is. So I invite our practitioners, our ministers of religious science, to stand wherever you are, to take a stand with me for this prayer as we anchor in the gratitude for all the love, all the nurturing, all the pouring forth of good that has shown up in our lives as that mothering energy from our biological mothers, our adopted mothers, our foster mothers, our stepmothers, our aunts and grandparents, our friends and teachers, our ministers, our psychologists, our neighbors, our own children at times. Anchoring into the love that has poured forth as we have nurtured and supplied and supported and released our own biological children, stepchildren, adopted children, foster children, borrowed children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, friends of friends, Girl Scout troops. The list could go forever of all those we have loved and all who have loved us. Such a joy it is to know that that act of nurturing, of supporting, of loving and releasing is always available to us everywhere we look, because it is all the walking out of divine spirit, beautifully and perfectly, right where we are, right as we are. It is so good. And I am so thankful to know that this presence is right here for and as and through and in and of each of us. And that more good is ever yet to come. And so I call it good. I release this word into the action of universal law, and let it be so as we say together. And so it is.